Hello, and welcome to the free test management and defect management. So what's included in this preview course? Well, to start,
Before we move forward with the course, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Allison Woodley Tahimba. I am the owner and the principal consultant for Thornton's Consulting Firm. I have over 20 years of experience in the software testing industry. I have managed and led the efforts for countless software testing projects. Thank you.
are you ready for your sneak peek into the test execution and defect management? Hello and welcome to Module 1. In this module, I will discuss system requirements and user stories and how software testers utilize these documents. So what are system requirements? Well, system requirements are also known as system requirements specification. It is a document that provides a description of a software that is to be developed or enhanced. It established the basis for an agreement between the customers and the contractors or the suppliers. It lays out and details the functionality and the non-functionality that is required for the customers as well as its users. It also defines at a high level the main business processes that are to be supported. So who writes these system requirements? Well, in many cases, there might be a business analyst that might create the system requirements. In some organizations, there might be a project manager or a product owner, or maybe some other member of the project team. But again, in most cases, it is a business analyst that creates the system requirements. So who uses these requirements? Well, every member on the team will read the system requirements. However, the software tester and the developer really analyze and review these requirements in order to perform their jobs. So for example, a software tester will read and analyze the system requirements to aid them in creating test scenarios and test cases, which we will see later in the course. Here I have an example of a system requirement. So in this requirements, it is the login functionality requirement. And it details exactly how the login feature should function. So when a customer puts in, or when a user puts in their login name and their password, here in the requirements, it details exactly how the system should function. So for example, in requirement 1.1.1, on a successful member login on the home page, it should be available with the welcome message. It said welcome to Cyclo's version with the version number. And requirements 1.1.2, when the wrong user ID and or password is provided, the user should receive an error message. And the message should state, invalid login, please try again. In requirements 1.1.3, when the user ID and or the password field is not provided, the user should receive an error message that states login name is required and the password name is required. Also in this example, we have some attributes for each field. So take, for example, the login name field. It states in this requirement that the minimum value that should be entered for this field, it's 4. The maximum value is 16. It is a mandatory field. And it also states that this field should only accept alpha and numeric characters. Let's move forward with the password field. Similar to the login field, the minimum field value is 4. However, the maximum field value is 25. It is also a mandatory film, and it accepts alpha and numeric characters. Now that we've completed system requirements, let's take a look at user stories. User stories are a short, simple description of a feature told from the perspective of the person who desires the new capabilities, usually a customer or users of the system. It describes the type of users and what they want and why. So who writes the user stories? Well, any member on the project team can write a user story. A software tester and a developer, much like the system requirements, a software tester will analyze the user stories to help them generate test scenarios and write test cases. Here's an example of a user story. And as you can see here, it is quite different than the system requirements. As I stated earlier, there's a very short, brief description of the user stories. So let's review this sample here. The short narrative states that it's a pin orders to a home page. So as a customer of the Buy Too Much website, I want to be able to pin orders on my customer's home screen so that I can track the status of the orders that I have placed. You can see here on the back of the user stories, there is a few acceptance criteria. And this is an example of a manual user story. So in the case if a company is creating user stories on an index card versus a tool, they would have this information as it appears here in this example. And again, on the back, you would have acceptance criteria as well as some failures. And the test analyst or the tester would take this user story to assist them with coming up with test scenarios and test cases, as I mentioned earlier. Here, as you can see on your screen here, is a copy of a system requirement specification for an application that is called Cyclos. In this demonstration, you will see exactly what a software tester does. A software tester read and analyze requirements. They then generate test scenarios and test cases. On the right-hand side of the screen is actually an example of some test scenarios that I will review later on. So let's move forward reviewing the Cyclos system specifications. So what I'm doing right now, I'm going to just scroll down to the functionality that we will be testing, and that is the login functionality requirement. That is requirement number 1. So let's scroll down to that requirement. And here's just some information about the Cyclos website. And I'm just moving forward. To access the website, here is the URL, and I'll just make a copy of it because we will log on to it later on. And let me scroll down. So here, requirement number 1 is the login functionality requirement. Here's a screenshot of the landing page or the home page of the Cyclos application. And for this exercise, we will write test scenarios and test cases for these requirements below. Requirements 1.1.1, .2, and .3. So let's review.
In this demonstration, you would get an opportunity to see exactly how a software tester execute a manual test case. So the test cases here on the left were the test cases that we created earlier. So now we are going to test the Cyclo's new user login registration. And so what a tester would do is actually take the manual test case that was created here with Excel, and they would just go through each step and execute the steps. They would enter the information in as they see it here on the test case.
Included in the full text execution and defect management. Well, that concludes the text execution and defect management. If you have any questions or concerns about the course, about